Thousands of years before the Targaryen conquest of Westeros, stories say the ancestors of the Valyrians were simple sheep herders who discovered dragons living near the chain of volcanoes they called the 14 Flames. Over time, they bonded with the creatures and were able to ride them into battle, becoming skilled in the magical arts. It is believed they controlled dragons through the use of whips, magic horns, and sorcery. Founding the city of Valyria, they came to rule as a freehold, where every landowner had a voice in policy, able to vote on various issues. However, it would be the 40 wealthiest and most influential families that held the most political power. As they expanded and built colonies, they sent archons as representatives of Valyria to oversee each settlement. However, as they moved into the northeast, they were confronted by the old empire of Gis and fought a series of 5 wars against the people who at the time were the greatest superpower west of the Bone Mountains. Little is known about the First Giscari War, except that Valyria was victorious, but during the second, the northern kingdom of Sarnor became involved, fighting alongside the Dragon Lords of Valyria against the lockstep legions of the old empire, and again Valyria was victorious. Their victories would continue into the Third Giscari War, when the Sarnori again allied with the Dragon Lords. Their conflict now spread across the Summer Sea, nearing the lands of Sothorios, where the Giscari colony of Gorgai was captured by Valyria and renamed Gogosos. In the Fourth Giscari War, Sarnori civil strife led some to continue supporting Valyria, while others sided with the Giscari. However, the Dragon Lords again proved victorious, this time capturing Zamitar, gaining the only major city in Sothorios. During the fifth and final war, around the year 4700 BC, the Giscari were completely defeated, with Valyria burning the city of Gis and spreading salt and sulfur so nothing would ever grow again. After years spent interacting with Old Gis, the Valyrians adopted their practice of slavery, using a great number of captured prisoners in the mines of the 14 Flames, working them to death to extract bronze, iron, tin, gold, and silver. Becoming masters of stonework, they used magic and dragonfire to shape their constructions, building beautiful cities of tall towers with Valyrian sphinxes gazing down at them from eyes of garnet. They also developed a special kind of steel, folded many more times than normal and cast with ancient spells to make weapons stronger and sharper than any other, becoming famed and highly prized around the world. Valyrians were also known to have built great roads across Essos, and magical items such as glass candles, which were shards of obsidian that when burning gave off an unpleasant light, allowing sorcerers to have visions and see across mountains, seas, and deserts, able to communicate with one another half a world apart. With Gis defeated and Valyrian civilization thriving, the lords of the peninsula started to look west and established a colony along the banks of the River Rhoyne, at first just a military outpost, but soon settled by merchants who paid the freehold to establish their own independently governed realm. And so Volantis became the first free city, handling their own internal affairs, but paying tribute to Valyria and living under her protection. The merchants were eager to take advantage of trade from the Rhoynar in the north, and since they were a powerful civilization in their own right, the Valyrians chose to have cordial relations with them for many years, while Volantis grew wealthy and strong. Moving further west, more free cities were founded, defeating and conquering the Andals who populated the coast. There was Lys, a pleasure retreat and trade hub, Tyr, a military outpost which soon became famed for the unique dyes and coloring they produced, proving popular amongst the Valyrians. There was the trade city of Myr, which grew from the conquest of a walled Andal city, yet there is some dispute over Pentos, with some claiming it grew from a trade settlement where Valyrians mixed with Andals, while others say it was a city that already existed, but its Andal king chose to pay tribute to the Valyrians. Other cities were settled by religious dissidents, with the bearded priests who worship a secret god founding Norvos, and the followers of the Black Goat establishing Qohor from a simple lumber camp. Although Andal culture and civilization was largely destroyed in Essos, it is believed many fled from the coming invasion, thus leading to their great migration into Westeros, estimated to have occurred between 6 and 2,000 years before conquest. However, others fled north, and so the island of Lorath also became a refuge, with King Carlon the Great, known as King of all the Andals, expanding his territory south and west. Unfortunately, he soon came into conflict with Norvos, and when he marched his army directly against the city, Valyria came to their defense, killing the king and destroying his homeland in the Scouring of Lorath. And so in 1436, another Valyrian religious sect who followed the blind god Boash settled the island. Aside from these 8 cities, known as the Daughters of Valyria, there was the bastard daughter, Braavos, founded in a northwestern lagoon by escaped slaves who'd killed their masters and stolen their ships, then fleeing from the wrath of the Freehold. And so they secretly established the city of Braavos, going to great lengths to keep its location secret for over a century. However, when the Sea Lord of the city felt it was ready to join the larger world, they revealed themselves and sent negotiators to Valyria to arrange a financial agreement with the Freehold, settling the debts they owed for the people they killed and ships they stole, though they did not pay for the slaves themselves. This satisfied the Valyrians, who had moved on to other concerns. The largest obstacle they faced in their western expansion was the powerful and relatively advanced civilization of the rhoynar, who had vast armies and knowledge of water magic. And so when hostilities first began, the rhoynar won a number of confrontations, and under their leader, Prince Garin the Great, raised an army of 250,000 to face the Dragon Lords. But they ultimately lost the Rhoynish Wars, seeing their final defeat in the Second Spice War around 700 years before conquest, with Prince Garin captured. Facing slaughter, the rhoynar who remained followed their last leader, Princess Nymeria, into exile, boarding 10,000 ships to seek a new homeland, eventually settling in Dorne. With western Essos conquered, the Valyrian Freehold annexed a small island in the Narrow Sea around 326 BC to act as their westernmost territory, quickly defeating the opposition of local lords. Using their magic, they twisted black stone to form the fortress of Dragonstone beneath the active volcano they called Dragonmount. Yet as wealthy and powerful as the Freehold were, their years of prosperity were coming to an end when in 126 BC, a young woman named Daenys the Dreamer, a daughter of House Targaryen, foresaw a great tragedy that would befall the Valyrian Peninsula. Convinced his daughter was correct, Aenar Targaryen, patriarch of what was a minor noble family, moved his household to the faraway island of Dragonstone, an action seen as cowardice by the aristocracy of their homeland, as they'd withdrawn from peninsula politics. However, as a result of their actions, they were one of the few families to survive the doom of Valyria, which struck 12 years later in 114 BC. Although the exact origin of the tragic event is not known, it is believed the 14 flames erupted, destroying their cities and the peninsula. Although most of the nobles and their dragons were lost, some few survived, such as Aurion, who declared himself first emperor of Valyria and raised an army of 30,000 in Qohor, leading them south atop his dragon to reconquer their homeland. However, the Dragon Lord and his armies were never heard from again, with some claiming that the horrors of the Doom continued to haunt this area forevermore. With the government of the Freehold destroyed, the rest of the continent fell to chaos and war, with the free cities struggling against each other for supremacy, while Dothraki horse lords ravaged central Essos, conquering the Dothraki Sea. However, on Dragonstone, the Targaryens and their dragons survived, as did their allies in House Velaryon of Driftmark and House Celtigar of Claw Isle, who were both of Valyrian ancestry. Over the next century, the Targaryens became a major power in the Narrow Sea, controlling trade with the threat of dragonfire, until Aegon the Conqueror was ready to invade Westeros. Love Westeros and the world of Ice and Fire? Then be sure to check out Culturefly.com, where they offer an amazing Game of Thrones box with an assortment of premium, officially licensed collectibles, apparel, and accessories, delivered right to your door 4 times a year. Many of these items are not available anywhere else, so if you're interested in signing up, be sure to check out the link in the description box below, and please be aware that duties and customs may apply if shipping outside the US. A special thanks to all those who contribute to CivilizationEx, like Sir Daeron of House Ashford, Madam Faith, Winter Sorceress of House Scarisbrick, Tio, the Iron Banker, and Sir Rice of the Dreadfort. If you would like to help CivilizationEx, click on the Patreon link, and please be sure to like and subscribe, and click on the links to see more.